I want to thank all of you for being here tonight or this evening. How we got started with this, one of our goals at Fairhope Police Department this year was to host quarterly meetings to discuss topics that affected our community. Tonight's topic, fentanyl, is unfortunately affecting every part of our country. Even our officers can attest that everything that we are seeing as far as drug related is fentanyl's a part of it. Fentanyl's there. When we started putting all this together, several people reached out to us and said, your speaker, you got to get this guy. And so we reached out to that guy, and we got him here tonight. And we're privileged to have him here. It's Lieutenant Mike Reese. He's a retired law enforcement officer. He returned to work on drug and alcohol prevention programs throughout Alabama. He has a lot of great information and a powerful presentation tonight. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to sit here and do a whole lot of talking because he does have a lot of information that we want to get out there. So we're going to just get right to it. If Lieutenant Reese, oh, there you are. You snuck in on me. All right. I'd like to turn this over to Lieutenant Reese. Yes. I know you want.
Thank you. I'm so glad you didn't read that bio. I told her not to. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, good evening. I'm going to move down here where I'm very comfortable being away. I'm not a preacher or anything, as y'all are going to see. I'm going to try to keep a clean mouth tonight, but no, I'm not that bad anymore. But we're honored to be here, and when I say honored, I'm terrified of crowds. Terrified, and but when you believe in something that you're doing and you want to do the very best that you can to make people aware of what is going on with our kids, and that's why we're all here, to make sure that our kids are safe, and we're going to do the very best we can, and we're going to show y'all some things you may not have known. Fentanyl is in the news every day now. It's not a night go by or a week that you don't see something about fentanyl. And y'all are going to see from some of the slides, a lot of people may not have ever thought that they had a problem with this. But I have to give a huge shout out. I met Cecil Christenberry, or Santa Claus, and you can't make Santa Claus mad because you know what'll happen if you do. But I'll be honest with you, I fell in love with him the first time I met him. He has a heart for kids and for his community. And when I met him that day, he said, "We're going to get you in Fairhope, Alabama." And here I am. So thank y'all for this amazing opportunity. And also to Dean and Pagan Mosher for making this possible for me to be here. The reason I'm going to talk, I'm going to skip around just a little bit, but to tell y'all that in 2016 in this country, for the first time ever, we lost 50,000 people to drug overdoses. 50,000. It doubled in 5 years. And right now, the main driving force behind that rapid increase is fentanyl. And fentanyl has been around for a long time. Actually, it's as old as me. The same year that I was born in 1959, it's when it was developed. And we're going to talk about the different kinds of fentanyl because y'all need to know, when I stand before you and I say there is a pharmaceutical grade fentanyl that your mothers or aunts or uncles or somebody at end of life, they give them comfort by putting a fentanyl patch on them. That is not what we're talking about right tonight. I'll show you the difference. So I don't want you to walk out of here and say, we've got to get our aunt off of this because it's going to kill her. What we're talking about tonight is street fentanyl. About 98% of it is manufactured in China, and they're dumping it on us every single day. They're dumping it into Mexico, and the cartels in Mexico are the ones that are pushing the issue. And when I say millions of pills, not a year, millions of pills, could be daily, are coming into this country, and until we do something to stop the flow, we're going to continue to have these problems. In the picture, I just want you to look at the tip of the pencil. And then underneath that, a blue 30. You may not have ever heard of a blue 30, but that pill right there is a Oxycontin generic. And I'm going to go back to the beginning to give you just a little bit of history on this to show you why we're at the point we're at today. In 2001, we started Operation Save Teens, which is the name of the program I do in schools, because we had kids that were going to doctors and getting pills called Oxycontin, which when they developed Oxycontin, the company that developed it was called Purdue Pharma, and it was for people, it was supposed to be for people at end of life. We had doctors that were giving it to kids with bad knees and tennis elbow and a filling that had pain. Dentists were giving kids, and kids were really quick to find out that they could take that pill. And instead of waiting like you should be waiting on it, because it had a time release on it, what they were doing is chewing it up and breaking down 24 hours worth of medicine at one time. And we had kids that started dying from it. When you think that fentanyl does not involve you, you think it would never happen to you or anybody that you love, we want to point out a few things tonight to show you that you cannot be sure about that. You cannot be sure because law enforcement, as hard as they're working on this issue, they can't tell you what's in a pill. That blue 30, by the way, you may not have ever heard of a blue 30, but I can assure you there are kids in the schools that know exactly what a blue 30 is. And that is what they call them in schools. It is the most sought after pill by kids that use drugs in schools. Now, not every kid is a drug user, so don't think we're saying we're painting everybody with a broad brush, because we're not doing that. But the rules have changed, and we're going to show you why we're even concerned for a grandson or a granddaughter that would never, ever think of using a drug. Fentanyl can kill you not even by taking it, but by handling it. It absorbs into the skin just like an LSD substance, which absorbs, and you get high off of it, and you go on a crazy trip. People from fentanyl, they can breathe it, they can touch it, they don't have to swallow it, but if the dose is strong enough, it can kill them. The other important thing to know is this slide is old. It's 2 years old. Because you see that 4 out of every 10 pills? It's 6 out of every 10 now. And I'll show you a slide a little later on to show you. I just wanted y'all to see how little the amount of fentanyl had to be that could kill you. In an Airbnb. And thank you, Cecil, for arranging my Airbnb. I appreciate it. And I can tell you the place I'm staying, they're doing it right, buddy. They got the air purifiers, they got everything top notch, and I am loving it. But I read this story and I saw this and I went, how in this world can a 19-month-old toddler die from fentanyl in an Airbnb? Because if it's in powder form and it was left anywhere, on any piece of equipment, on a remote control, anything that a kid, on the side of a bed, And it happens all the time. People get exposed. A young man that passed away, and the coroner came and took the young man down to the hospital where they had the morgue. And the mother the next day went in to clean his room up, and she also died from fentanyl exposure because of what was left behind in the room. 2001, 22 years ago, we started this program because of OxyContin. In our lifetime, what we've all been able to see and experience are miracle drugs, drugs that do amazing things. And I'm not against drugs that a doctor prescribes for you or for one of your loved ones, but what we'll be telling kids in the school tomorrow is this. You go to a doctor and you follow what a doctor tells you, and you go to the pharmacy. We have the safest drug supply in the world, in America. But where we get into trouble is kids are taking other kids' word for it, and they're buying pills off of the street, and you don't know where they come from, and all of a sudden we're in a mess. And the second part of that is I'm going to show y'all all the different forms that fentanyl can be in. Everybody in this place has always heard, or if you hadn't heard, Purdue Pharma has made a lot of cities rich because they've been sued by everybody because of all the death and destruction that they caused. And I don't advocate, I'm not a person that tells people to go out and rent a movie or anything, but there's a movie on that situation about the opiate crisis. If you ever have a chance to see the movie, it's called Dope Sick. And the name of the movie is exactly what it's about. It's about OxyContin and how it spread across the country. And an actor named Michael Keaton is in it, and it's a great, great movie. It's very shocking. That's an OxyContin that's on the tip of a young person's hand. And all across the state in 2001, we started having these overdoses. We didn't even know it existed. I worked drugs almost my whole career, and I didn't even know what an OxyContin was when a 15-year-old told us, you better do something about the oxy, the cotton. And I said, what? He said, the cotton, it is everywhere, and you better do something. And it didn't take us long. There was 9 young people in about 2.5 months that overdosed and died in North Alabama from OxyContin because they broke the time release down, they chewed it up, and then they died from it. Any opiate, and this is important for y'all to know, any opiate that you take slows your breathing down. It's a depressant. It slows your breathing down. Parties, where kids are going to parties, what do kids really like to do at parties besides marijuana? What is something else that they do a lot of? What is alcohol? It's a depressant. Did y'all know that marijuana is a depressant? It is. And we have kids that have got it figured out. They'll smoke marijuana, and then they'll take a pill, and they may take an upper, something that gets them kind of going and all, and then about 1 o'clock in the morning, they start thinking, I better start calming down, so they'll take some Xanax, which is a depressant, and then they may finish up with an opiate, and then they quit breathing. It's not like you have a massive heart attack and die. When you die from an opiate overdose, your breathing gets so shallow, your brain, the signal to breathe, breathe, breathe. Narcan that we're going to talk about and tell everybody in here is a drug. It's like a gate. When you go and you overdose on an opiate and you quit breathing, the Narcan is like a door opener. You give somebody Narcan and it blocks the signal, or it opens the gate to allow the signal to come back. And that's why it's a rescue drug. But we be careful when we're telling kids this, because we don't want them to think that Narcan is safe every time. Oh, you don't have to worry. As long as you're at a party, if you got somebody and they're playing Lazarus, and I'm going to tell you something, I know there's a lot of people that are Christians in here, and I'll say this. We know who Lazarus is. He was rose from the dead. There was an actual thing that people at parties, they would have one that was set aside to not use drugs. The others could use the drugs, and then if they overdosed, they would give them the Narcan. Is that amazing? It's shocking, but it's true. That's how young people, trying to talk sense into them and to show them how precious life is. And I think, like, I'll tell kids tomorrow this. I say it to every group I do. I'll look at them and I'll say, young man, you truly don't know how much you're loved. You truly don't know to somebody you are the most important person in this world. And if something happened to you, somebody's life would never, ever be the same. And you know why it's hard for them to know that? Because until they have kids themselves, it's just not something they know. That is why we go to schools, and I beg them. We beg them to do the right thing. We beg them to be the ones to not follow the crowd anymore, to have it inside of you to do the right thing. No matter what, even if you have to stand alone, you do the right thing. You don't have to worry about all this. How much is a life worth? I can tell you, I'll promise you what somebody I'll ask a student tomorrow morning. How much is your life worth? And I can promise you, I'll tell you exactly what they'll say. I guarantee it. A lot. That's what they'll say. 99 out of 100 says a lot. Because there's no way you can put a dollar amount on it. And then I'll tell them, you're right. It's worth a lot, but that's not the real answer. And then at the end of the program, I'll tell them your life. I'll go right back to the same person, and I'll say, your life that was worth a lot is worth everything. Everything. We are here, and y'all are here after a busy, it's Tuesday, right? Tuesday? Busy Tuesday, and everybody's been at work, and everybody's tired, and everybody's been at school. But we're gonna show y'all, because this is important stuff. Young kids, how young, what I've seen in my career. Flash forward to 2019. Two brothers went to a party, and they did blue 30s. And that night, they both died. And a mother found both of her sons dead the next morning from blue 30s. And when there's always a knee-jerk reaction when law enforcement got involved with all the OxyContin pills and all. You know what we did? We drove people. When we started cracking down on the doctors and we started cracking down on the people that could get OxyContin, the people that were already addicted had no choice but to turn to the street and to start using heroin. We drove them there. Now, was law enforcement at fault? No. You don't ever say, well, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to let them kill themselves. We're always going to try. And you know what? We may not always make the right decisions, but when this stuff is going on, you do the best thing that you can do at the time. And then if it's wrong, you can change. But we drove people to heroin. And she is dead right there where she is sitting. She's got a hypodermic needle in her right wrist. And her mother found her like this. And I have another picture I'm not showing you where her mom rolled her over and what a terrible sight it is. But that's somebody's daughter. And her mother wanted that to be shown to show you the horrors of this. Right here in Mobile area. When you're addicted to something, what I want all of y'all to know is the baby died after she shot up while she was giving birth. High school senior from Raglan, Alabama. This picture was made on a Friday night, Tuesday. He was a smart kid and a school leader, and he died of a heroin overdose. When the tox came back, it was laced with fentanyl. His drug dealer brought him the pill in the middle of the Brindle in the middle of the night and put it in his mailbox like he always did. And his mother, her name is April Thompson. She does programs with me in North Alabama. She said the night before, he had been to 3 rehabs in 5 months. She said to me, I finally felt like Jace was turning the corner. That night, he seemed more like himself, and he told me, Mom, tomorrow night, I'm renting a movie and getting a pizza, and me and you and his girlfriend are going to watch it together. And she said, I literally went to bed that night with the most calm heart that I had had in months. And then she went in the next morning to wake him up, and he was dead in his bed. I want all of y'all to pay attention to this because it's very important that we all get this. Because I have been in law enforcement my whole career, and I was hardcore and all. But in 2016, this man, who was a Surgeon General of the United States, made a famous speech. And he said this. He said, in America right now, that if you get addicted, and 1 in 7 will, if you get addicted, only 10% will ever get the treatment that they need. And then out of that, and this is in 2016. By the way, he is a Surgeon General again. I want him to do an update because I can assure you it's way up 35 million probably that are addicted, and the chances, and it's going to grow and grow and grow. The truth of the matter is, addiction is a disease. That's what he said. And it's the first time in my life, I have to tell you, it's a horror story, but it's true. I have been in a room and I have seen dead bodies of overdose people that I was working on cases. And I've been there, and I've heard people say this, and I'm not going to lie, I don't remember saying it, but I probably did. To walk in and see somebody like that and think, well, that's somebody we won't have to worry about. They did it to themselves. When you think about what science is saying about this, genetics, and this is the message to the students tomorrow. If you have an aunt, uncle, mother, father, grandmother, grandfather that is an alcoholic, 50% more likely to become one, but does that mean you're going to become one? What do you have to do to be an alcoholic? Drink. What do you have to do to become a heroin addict? You have to use it. And if you tell kids and you trust them to be smart enough and say, I know you're smart enough to believe this, you're more likely, if you do this stuff, 50% more likely to become an alcoholic or an addict. But the most important thing that he said, and it changed my life, y'all, we have to recognize that addiction isn't an evidence of a character flaw or a moral failing. It's a chronic disease of the brain that deserves the same compassion that any other chronic illness does, like diabetes or heart disease. There it is. They don't want to be addicts. That is the truest picture. Did you know how many addicts end up committing suicide? I can tell you this. In Baldwin County last year, at least 5 that we know about committed suicide because of drug use. That's not counting across this country all the people that are so hopelessly addicted that they absolutely come down to a decision to end their life because they are absolutely have no hope. Something that happened in 2017 was amazing to me because for the first time ever in this country, our life expectancy fell. We are living in a generation that it was rising every year until the opioid epidemic hit, and it's been full bore since 2017. You see, it was heroin, and now all of a sudden in 2018, they add fentanyl because of all the overdoses. And then the pandemic hit. You couldn't go to rehab. You couldn't go to counseling. You ever tried to do a Zoom meeting, any of y'all? I threw a computer off of a table one time. I'm glad it wasn't mine. But anyway, at a time that we really, really, really needed to dig in and give them help, 30% higher than the year before. And for the first time ever in 21. We're waiting on 2022 figures. Right now they estimate that it's about 108,000, but it's going to be way higher than that. Y'all wait and see when the official number comes out. 107,735 is what the Center for Disease Control said, and that's from a half a year to the other half year, from like April 1 year, 21 to 22. But wait till we find out what happened from April of 22 now. It's going to be shocking how much higher it is. 295 a day, one every 4.8 minutes. 65 in Baldwin County that's confirmed by your coroner. Five suicides in addition to that was related to drugs. We lost people all across this country, like the young girl on the left that had been an addict for 8 years in Erie, Pennsylvania. The young man on the right, he was only an addict for 2 years, and he died. And they both were part of that 295. So that means 293 other parents and loved ones' world was turned upside down. And they hadn't slowed down one bit. When I tell y'all that it's a problem, and why it's a problem, and why everybody in here really needs to be concerned, it's not just powdered heroin, powdered fentanyl. We have the pharmaceutical, but it's the way they are putting the fentanyl into products right now. Pills, marijuana, candy, vapes, cocaine, meth. I had a student one time tell me this. He says, I don't believe nothing you say. And I said, why is that? He says, because you can't even spell marijuana. And I said, young man, I can tell you this. I've wrote about 10,000 search warrants in my life, and if you look in the Code of Alabama, and all of y'all can do that, that's how it's spelled in the Code of Alabama. It's not a J. I wish I could moon dance. I'd do it right now in front of y'all. I would. We're not lying to y'all when we say it is in these pharmaceutical fentanyl patches. The patch that came out has been around since 1959, and if you look at that, it's end of life. People that are really, really in a lot of pain, they give you the patch, they stick it on your shoulder. But young people found out in vitro delivery of 100 micrograms for 72 hours, 3 days dosing, and young people found out you could put that patch into your mouth and suck the medicine out of it, and it was a great high. And you know what? It cost them their lives. And then they made a tea out of it, and their young baby got their hand or her hands on it, and the baby overdosed. Street fentanyl. The leading cause of death in this country if you're 45 years and younger. 45. 18 to 45, the leading cause of death is a fentanyl overdose. And we're not talking very much. It's 80 to 100 times more powerful than morphine, 50 times stronger than heroin. And that's just regular fentanyl. There is carfentanil, acrylfentanyl, acetafentanyl, and a whole laundry list of stuff that is out there. But this, right here, DEA says this. And this is why every figure that I give y'all is backed up from the CDC or right off of the DEA, which is the drug enforcement. This is what I want you to know, how little it takes. When you see 2 milligrams, now for you bake cakes and stuff like that. You know exactly what a teaspoon is. 2 milligrams is considered to be deadly. It's 1,000th of a gram. Okay? In a teaspoon, there's 167 in a teaspoon. And only 2 of them is considered to be deadly. That's how little we're talking. Prescription pills. They're putting it into pills. 6 out of 10 pills on the street have fentanyl in them. A lethal dose of fentanyl. So the word tomorrow to the juniors and the seniors is you have better odds of playing Russian roulette than you do taking a fentanyl pill. And are you really willing to risk your life for what? For something that is going to give you agony if you get addicted to it, and the harshness of trying to get off of it. 2 more kids from parents in 2021 died the same way at a party. They went home. They did the same exact pills as the other two brothers. But this time they were different because they had fentanyl in them. Now, I can assure you that your police department here and ALEA agents, nobody can tell. We can't tell when you look at it. They don't smell any different. They don't look any different. Actually, if you look at those, the fake ones look better than the real ones. But this is the big shocker to me. In 2018, we seized in this country, this is at port of entry, 290,000 pills for the whole year. In 2021, it was 9.7 million. The first 2 months last year, 20 million pills in January and February. And they're coming across just like that. You say, well, how can they be coming across, and what are we doing about it? Barry Mattson, who has done more for kids of this state than anybody I know, has been a champion in getting drug laws written. Barry Mattson said just exactly what I've been saying for 5 years. Fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction. The people, the cartels, first of all, do the Chinese like us very much? What have they given us? Balloons. We like balloons, right? Do we like COVID? Do we like lead paint in our baby toys that they sent over here, or killing our dogs with dog food and all? He said it the truth. They're shipping this stuff to the cartels, and they're bringing it across, not to try to get customers. Get it out of your head. Their goal is not to create customers. They are trying to kill people. Do you think the cartel really care about a young man in Baldwin County, Alabama? Do you think they need the money? They have more money than the United States government does to fight it. They don't need money. This is exactly what we're talking about. This shows up on the border in August. Those are blue 30s. The same pills, they're generic Oxycontin, marked up with the M and the 30, but they're not, right? They're rainbow pills that a young kid that's in the 2nd grade would think nothing about picking that up. It came in 2 days in a row. A week later, it was on the streets in Washington, D.C., and 2 weeks after that, it was in Idaho on the street. And you don't think it's been right here in Baldwin County? What's that interstate y'all got running right through here? Think about it. We're living in a time, y'all. Well, this is up in Franklin County, that a student was selling fentanyl pills. He didn't know they were fentanyl, selling them at his school. And thank goodness he had a heroic friend that did the right thing, that went and told the SRO. And I met y'all's SROs. They're awesome. And I know, I hope and I pray that the kids at this school are smart enough to realize if somebody is dealing pills in this school, they better do the heroic thing, because that would have led to death, and they stopped him before he ever got started. The Dolly Parton Bridges. I've never understood why they call it that. See all the weed down front? That's high-grade marijuana with an H. The table behind it are edibles. And I'm going to touch on the edibles. Y'all got a beautiful, there's a hemp place here. It's got an armored vehicle sitting out front. Wow, that's amazing. But all those are edibles, and they're not. Those are Delta 8, Delta 10, and THCO, and we can leave this school, and in 5 minutes I could drive you to convenience stores that's got that stuff in it, or some of it. Vape stores the same way. But you see this stuff and you think, what? All of this came straight out of California. That stop that was made at the bridges going across the bay up, they had 8 pounds of fentanyl also. And 8 pounds, 1 pound will kill 227,000 people. So figure it out how much that is. These are the vape pods that are straight up and down marijuana vape pods from California. First day of school, the very first day, he came home with a pill that he got from a friend. We don't know if he bought it. The young man says that he don't know how he got it or anything. Somebody just gave it to him, and Jose took it that night, and his mom and grandmother found him dead the next morning. Closer to home, Baldwin County is here, Mobile County across the bay. We're just trying to get the word out to everybody that when it comes to any of this, whether you're at parties, whether you're with people that you trust, boyfriends, there's consequences. And there has to be consequences for our actions. We lost a student in school this year to a fentanyl overdose up in Selma, Alabama. They're putting fentanyl into everything. And I know y'all have a state representative. I believe he's a representative. Matt Simpson is one of the people that's really pushing for the legislation. We know this. They are putting fentanyl into everything. Here's a story out of California, but this woman said this. This was not an overdose. This was murder. The young girl that took the pill or bought the pill, and the people knew it had fentanyl in it, and it killed her. So what I'll tell students is, it used to be if you wanted to go buy some CBD and soak some cereal in it and then pass it out to your friends and them get a little bit upset tummy and get a little bit sick, those days are way behind us now, because all this stuff that is in the stores, you don't really know what it is. And the Delta 8 stuff, and I'll show you a little later, but it is a real problem. And we're trying to get awareness of that. But when you have kids dying in the lunchroom with his friends around, and then they hit him 2 times with Narcan to try to save his life, but it did not work, because there are some forms of fentanyl that is not fazed by Narcan. In 2016, when I did this program, that was a huge bust. And I remember how proud I was to be able to talk about it. That's a big seizure right there. Had a Toyota Tacoma truck that they drove across the border, and it had over 1 million pills in the body of the truck. This is what 1 million pills looks like. And that's what's coming across our border. You notice the gun on top? A 10-year-old that died because he picked up a bag that somebody had tossed out of a window. And people would say, well, why would anybody throw away a bag of dope? And I can tell you, ask a Fairhope police or Orange Beach police officer in their career how many times they've seen a car, when they recognize a popo was behind them, they speed up and then they make a quick turn. They toss because they don't want to get caught with the bag. This kid walking home from swimming picked it up. He didn't take any of the fentanyl or anything. It was on the residue was on the bag, and it killed him. "13-year-old drug dealer at his school. He took a pill in front of 2 potential sellers. They just handled the pills. They were hospitalized. It killed him. He had 40 more tablets in his pocket, and they searched his house. He had 100 more at his house. 13-year-old. Took 130 pills off of a 13-year-old. The guy that somebody ratted him out, thank God, because it's not snitching. I'll make that very clear. You're doing the heroic thing. The man that took the pills off of him, they had to hit him with Narcan 2 times to revive him. But this is the big change. The youth, the ages of the ones that are becoming victims, 16, 14, 13, 14, 16. She is a world famous doctor. Her son died of an overdose, and when the SROs and the local police investigated this case, they found out that they didn't talk drugs on their phones. They had emojis. If you wanted to buy heroin, you would put in there the dragon, which is the symbol. People say when you use heroin, you're chasing the dragon. The weed, meth, the 8-ball of cocaine. I mean, they use the emojis, and they were middle school and high school kids. 12-year-old. Fentanyl-laced marijuana. A 14-year-old that died from smoking marijuana. His mom said, "I knew he smoked marijuana. I wasn't happy about it, but I didn't think I could stop. I didn't know he used anything any stronger," and he didn't either, because a man laced his marijuana. You wouldn't be able to tell by looking at it. We had 3 overdoses in Anniston back in the end of January. 1 died, and 2 others they had bought from the same guy they'd been buying from. They were all early 20s. The one guy smoked it, and he passed away. The other 2 smoked it, but they both were hospitalized from smoking marijuana that had fentanyl in it. Leeds, Alabama, where it was a marijuana bust. A young man bought a bag that had fentanyl in it, and it killed him. They ended up doing an investigation, and it was a big ring there in the Birmingham area. How many parents in here, and please, with a show of the hands, how many of you think that vaping is a problem in schools? You know, I'll tell you this. Every school that I go to and I talk to the administration, they tell me hands down the biggest problem in our school right now is vaping. And thank God they're only vaping something that can't hurt them. And I went, God, it's time to educate the educators. They're putting fentanyl in the vapes. But even if they weren't, because we'll talk about this tomorrow to the students, you're doing so much damage to your lungs and all. But the vaping, that was right across the line from Florence, Alabama, the first that we saw. And then it started kind of spreading out. This is up where I go to trout fish in Tennessee. SRO, and a nurse had to be hit with Narcan to revive them. candy. Those are Flintstone vitamins that have fentanyl in them. That was in Sanford, Florida. Pez candy that had fentanyl in it. This is the University of Georgia in Athens, where they took Jolly Ranchers and they melted them down. And then when they melted them down, they added the fentanyl to them. They bought silicone molds in a kitchen supply place. They put the fentanyl-laced Jolly Ranchers back into the molds. Then they took them out when they cooled. They put them back to sell them on the campus of the University of Georgia. 500 of them. Maine, the same way. Those are molds that they put the fentanyl in. And now who are they targeting with this stuff, y'all? They're not targeting me. They're going after kids. And that's always been the problem with all of this. They always manage to get their hands. These are fentanyl pills that were in packages that were sealed. When you have the kind of money that they have, it's very easy. And we'll show you that on the candies with just the Delta 8 stuff. But this is a real problem. That was right before Halloween this last year in Los Angeles. They're putting it into cocaine. That's where I live. On April Fool's Day, we had kids so afraid. We've had so many overdoses up there on heroin with fentanyl that they switched over to cocaine, and 12 in 36 hours, 2 deaths. This case was West Point cadets on spring break. And 2 football players, and they did the they did the cocaine that they bought, and then they zonked out. So the kids with them did CPR, and they zonked out. Walden County, a bachelor party. This young man from down in Homewood, Alabama, went out and bought cocaine for them to use at the bachelor party. It had fentanyl in it, and it killed this young man. If you notice, and this is the one common in all the time I've been doing this program, there's never a shortage of parents that are willing to talk. Not because they have to. When they all say the same. Have you ever noticed they say the same thing? I don't want any other parent to feel what I feel. They all say that because it's true. The Birmingham mayor, because of all the fentanyl contaminated deaths up in Birmingham right now from tainted cocaine. And then this is a source of contention with law enforcement and some other people. At the end of this program tonight, we're going to have a QR code. You can take your phone and you can hit a link. And if you do like a 7-minute video, you can send it in and they'll send you a package that will have fentanyl test strips. And they'll also have Narcan. Well, you don't need Narcan. I mean, why would anybody need Narcan? But this Birmingham pub, because of all the overdoses in Birmingham, he posted this and said, look, don't use cocaine. Don't. But if you're going to, test it. This is my kit. This is my old kit, brand new, never been used, unfortunately. We want people to know, and this is a source of contention, And it's not with all law enforcement. There are some old, hardcore guys like me that would say something like, man, y'all are making it too easy for them. And then I'd say, what if you got a 14-year-old daughter and somebody gave her a pill and she used it and then she fell over dead? Would you want Narcan to save your daughter? Or if you had a son that you love more than you love yourself and you could test him, or he was going to get out, because that's what addicts do. They do not stop until they stop. They either get to the point that they get help, or they get to the point that they mess up and they die from it. But would you not want them to have a tool? Methamphetamine. Methamphetamine deaths, and this is another situation I want all of y'all to be aware of. In this state right now, the main two drugs that are really popping up everywhere, methamphetamine is everywhere right now, along with the fentanyl. The difference is you don't have the instant deaths from the meth unless it's got fentanyl in it. Meth is a slow-moving drug that kills. It sucks the life out of people over a period of time. But if there is fentanyl that is added in it, it is going to cause instant death. It can. So, you see that the numbers have tripled in the last few years, and that's continued. This is up in Marshall County. They died, the coroner came out, and it was a fatal dose. He thought of meth, but it wasn't. It was meth that was laced with fentanyl was the cause of death. For all you people that are rich, and there's a bunch of y'all in here, I'm sure, that get to travel, right? I put this in here because this is something everybody needs to know. If you go to Mexico, these are real life, honest to goodness pharmacies in Mexico. Not run by the cartel or anything. If you go on vacation and you get sick and they send you to a pharmacy, we want y'all to know this. This is all a week and a half. It made the news, and now it's about every day. They're having congressional hearings on it because they are selling pills in these legitimate pharmacies that have fentanyl and meth laced pills in them. So if you go, why, first of all, I would say I would avoid Mexico right now anyway. They just killed 2 Americans a few weeks ago, and they're kidnapping other Americans. So it's not a place with the war going on down there like it is. But if you go, just remember this. And then the dollar bills. The dollar bills, this is not a wives' tale, it's a true story. And this is what we tell young kids all the time now. Because I had a 5th grader, I did not even talk about this. I was doing a program for 5th graders. And before y'all all think, you're showing those kids those pictures of death, I show age-appropriate pictures to age-appropriate kids. To 5th graders, you know what I talk to them about more than anything? Phones and social media, and to quit sending naked pictures to your boyfriends and girlfriends, because that's a huge problem. And I also tell them how important it is to make good decisions. And then this kid said, what about dollar bills that's got fentanyl in them? And I said, oh, okay. Well, let me tell you this. This right here was a story in Nashville, Tennessee, where a story on the news, and thank goodness they had it, a family in Kentucky that lived on the border gets Nashville news. They saw this, an uncle saw this, and the next week, while I was down here doing a program for the Alabama Peace Officers Association, that right there, While we were doing this program, that uncle that saw that story, a toddler was fixing to pick up a dollar bill that had fentanyl in it. And thank God, the officers tested it and saved that kid's life. So the message is, why would anybody do that? Do y'all believe in evil? You believe there's really people in this world that really and truly there are? We passed the law in Alabama where you can go buy it. And now I'm telling you, because when it first got passed, they went from about $34 to about $180. It's what they did. Just like the EpiPens, they saw an opportunity. But we're telling you, we're going to let you have it for nothing. If you just fill out a form and send it in and be a little bit patient, because they are behind, because so many people are taking advantage of it. But you say, well, I don't need it. Well, Jerome Harris, who was the Surgeon General during President Trump's, and he's a brilliant mind, he says every American needs it. You need it because you don't think you need it, but you might need it. So have it. And it's something so simple to use. It's in schools. I didn't think to ask, is it in Fairhope High School? It is. Thank goodness. If it isn't, I would say, please get it in here. It is one school I went to last week or 2 weeks ago, North Alabama. They say they have used Narcan 8 times this school year. And I said, 8 times? And they said, well, we're not sure they were all overdoses, but when they come to you crying and you're afraid that it's an overdose, I went, because if you give them Narcan, it's not going to hurt them. In other words, it's not something you give them and then they fall over from it. It may make their tummy hurt a little bit, but that was in September. It had already been administered 15 times, and that was the week that the girl died over in Sims, Alabama. And they asked Michael Sibley with the Alabama Board of Education how many times they'd used it. That was September. So keep in mind, we've had almost a year behind us, but also remember, Narcan does not work on every case. And then we passed the law about the test strips. We didn't pass a law, we amended a law that says it's not drug paraphernalia. You are allowed to have a test strip in your possession, and it's a good thing, in my opinion, but it's just my opinion. You can buy them on Amazon, but we're going to let you have them for free just for you being here tonight. Carfentanil is much, much stronger, 10,000 times more stronger than morphine, 100 times stronger than fentanyl, and that just shows you that it steps right up how little it takes to have a deadly amount. They use it for elephant tranquilizer, and we've had deaths across the state from it. Massive cases where people, big groups at one time, this is some that was shipped into Canada, was coming across, came from China, but those were print cartridges that had pure fentanyl or carfentanil in them. And they all look the same. They can put colors in them, and they can make it look super fancy and all, but at the end of the day, it's just death, and that's why it's so important to get the word out about all this stuff. edibles real quickly. I know, what time is it? Somebody tell me what time it is. It's 6:12? 7:12. We're doing good. We only got 5 more hours. And I'll be in here and y'all all be gone. I'll be going, but wait, one more thing. Edibles. This is very important. Quit buying this crap in convenience stores and think that it's safe. Quit giving your dogs. If you don't love your kids, quit giving it to your dogs. Our dogs are best friends, right? Well, I don't know. Y'all are really uptown because y'all have an Aldi. I love Aldi. Go into the next time you go into Aldi, go over there where they sell the chocolate bars. I promise you, that bar right there, there's one identical to it. Colored, identical to it. And it's dark chocolate, identical to it, except what it says. It said a vaping kitchen. And I was going to go get it today and have it. It's been a busy day, y'all. We've had a lot of stuff going on today. But I do want you to know this. That is marijuana with an H. And it almost killed this little girl that went to a friend's house and they saw the chocolate bar and they ate it. They rushed her to the hospital and they saved her life. 4,000 cases of kids under 10 consuming edible cannabis. And y'all know Alabama is a medical marijuana state. And it's going to get much worse. And right now we're under this thing with the hemp plant, which is where marijuana comes from. But when you have products like this, that this young man ate, and then he jumped off of a balcony to his death, that is a size of a Little Debbie cake. And it's got 8 dosages of marijuana in it. Why would you do that? Why would you put any amount of an edible with multiple dosages? Because you know Americans, we're slobs, or most of us, and we're going to sit there and going to eat the whole thing. Mobile, Alabama. That was actually at a school south of Mobile. I knew the name of the school, and Alma Bryant. Where is Alma Bryant? Yeah. So anyway, this is the old way of doing things. 2019, they were buying Fruit Loops, buying CBD oil, soaking the Fruit Loops in the CBD, and then going to parties, and they were all eating the CBD. CBD is cannabinol, is a type of marijuana, and in Alabama, it has to be under 0.3% THC, which is tetrahydrocannabinol, which is marijuana. But what happens is this. Kids are getting their hands on this, Dothan, and this case right here. In 2021, no, it's 2019 or 2020, 3 kids from Clay County High School went to a store they knew sold to kids. They bought this. Those look like Lifesaver gummies, CBD gummies, and they ate them, and all 3 of them were hospitalized. Because they were in the hospital, we put a rush order on this to be tested at the forensic lab. We got the results back about 5 weeks ago. It was over 2 years. And this is the result. That bottom thing, cannabinol, or CBD and methyl 2, that is a drug that is outlawed in this country. It is a controlled substance just like heroin, and it was mixed in with the CBD that was sold in a convenience store. Did you know that your kids, they don't have to be 21 years old, they can go into a convenience store and buy Delta 8, they can buy CBD at any age. They can do it at 12 years old. We got to change that law. We got to get this crap out of the stores. We got to get Matt Simpson and people like him working on this issue, because our kids' lives can be at stake. When I say it's a problem, it's a problem. Just 2 months ago, the FDA, that is supposed to regulate all this, came out and said, it's too dangerous. It's got too many safety unknowns to be regulated. Those are the people, you know what that'd be like? That would be like your chief here saying, well, I want to stop that bank robbery, but you know what? That's dangerous. We need to have somebody look into that, right? Well, you need to look into it. That's your job, right? The Food and Drug Administration. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And I'm going to leave you with one last thing on that. The Food and Drug Administration also has a rule that said you cannot put CBD in anything edible. What's in the CBD gummies? Think about this. They're not even enforcing their own rules that you can't put CBD into gummies and candy bars and suckers and stuff like that. They're just not enforcing it. You got to watch Saturday Night Live to get that. That's old school, y'all. Sorry. Anyway. This is what you run across all over the state. Would a first grade kid pick that package up? How many of y'all know what that is really looks like? Sour Patch. I had a package, but I ate them on the way down here. I did, honestly. I was hungry. But it looks identical to that, and a first grader would pick that up and eat it and would not think anything about it. But what is the dead giveaway on it? Stoner. What else? There's something else. Dummies. But you see the marijuana plant around the stoner and all? Those are marijuana plants. This is a teacher that had if you did good in her class, she'd give you a treat. She forgot and brought the real ones from home, and one of the kids grabbed up some stoner patch. All across the state, y'all, this is what we're dealing with right now. And this is what somebody, even kids get it, they go, how can they put that into a plant or into something that they know is a copyright infringement? And I said, oh, they do it all the time, and they're making so much money off of it that they're not worried about it because there's no enforcement going on right now. The difference on those packages, they're very similar, but the 400 milligrams of THC on the right, the trolley with a THC on the bottom, but I'm going to point out something on the left. I saw it at a local hemp store today. They took that logo, that is a trademark from California. It's got the triangle stands for Delta, and then it's got a marijuana leaf in it with an exclamation point, and then CA. And then this local hemp company, not going to name names or anything, But they violated a copyright infringement because they took their trademark that they're infringing on, and then they put AL underneath it. Trips, Ahoy, Stonio. Some of them are like that. They'll change the name. But what about this? On this one, they had butterweed. They had payweed. But then you get up there, the Tricks and the Caribou instead of Haribo. Snickers, the Reefer's Cups. And these are things that kids are getting their hands on. 5 kids at Lincoln High School, 3 high schoolers, 2 middle school, all went to the hospital because of that package of medicated nerds that they ordered off the internet. It was shipped right to one of them's house. They overdosed, all of them lived. Dead giveaway on that. You see the copyright thing on the top left, the THC, 60-minute active. See, I make kids read this out just so they know what to look for. Hopefully they'll remember it. Mary Montgomery and the kids that gave it to the girls, they all are in trouble and should be. See, that's what another thing I tell these young middle school kids. If you bring something from home and you know you shouldn't give it out to somebody. 2 weeks ago, 13 middle school, and after they took them to the hospital, the parent that stopped with the student said, first of all, that's not an illegal substance. And he was right. In Alabama right now, but I'm going to tell all of y'all something, and I want y'all to remember this for a long time. Just because it's not illegal doesn't mean it's good for you. Right? And until we get this law passed, that we get all this stuff pulled out of the stores, and what the school board member said, it's a wake-up call. And it should be a wake-up call for all of our schools. The people that make this stuff, Skittles with a Z, Delta 8 on the left-hand side, Warheads, Dorito chips that came from a block from my office. But all of y'all, I want you to pay close attention to one thing. You see a real good shot of the California seal of approval, but look on the left-hand side. How many of y'all have got QR readers on your phones? Y'all know what that is? If you are a parent, I would recommend to you to get a QR reader. We went into this store, which was a vape shop, and we said, I want to see your paperwork, because he's supposed to have the paperwork showing how much THC there is in the product. And he says, oh, yes, sir, it's right here, sir. And he laid it out in front of me, and then I took my phone out, and as soon as I pulled my phone out, he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm fixing to hit this QR right here to see what's really in it. High school kids know. Your kids know what a QR reader is. They know to hit it. And what he was showing me on paperwork and what that is, they did not G-haul. See, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. See, these people that are selling this stuff, shame on them. That is a small bag of potato chips, $20. That should be the first dead giveaway. That was cheaper. That was only $12. These are cereals, cereal bars. What happened over there at Mary Montgomery? And last on the THCO. DEA came out a couple weeks ago and finally, see, right now it's been a source of contention in this country. All the Delta 8 stuff, they say it's hemp derived, and I'm telling you, it's synthetic drugs. When it's all said and done and they end up pulling all of it, because DEA is going to rule on it and say all of this stuff is garbage. We had a kid at a middle school a year ago, almost exactly, overdose on this product right here called High Fly. We didn't even know about it. Within 1 week, that stuff, because it made the news that it made a kid overdose, within 1 week, every convenience store in this state was selling it. Well, DEA, about 2 months ago, came out and said, you know what? THCO is illegal. So, anything that's got the THCO that's hemp derived is illegal, according to DEA. You know what happens in this state, and it's not police officers' fault. We are slow because when we push and we get something pulled, just like Juul vapes, and the government cracked down on them and pulled it, and then they turned right around when they threatened a lawsuit, and the FDA said, okay, we're going to study the issue some more. What we have to do is we need the Attorney General of the state to rule like 21 other states have already done and said every bit of this is illegal. If you want to sell it, go to Florida. If you want to use it, go to Florida, but you're not going to do it here in Alabama. And I hope they don't do it in Florida. These are vape pods that have Delta 8 in them. I'm going to show you, talking about the cereal, I'm only going to show you one movie. This girl ate one gummy that a classmate gave her. She's in the 10th grade. This is her on the way to the hospital. This is her in the hospital room. She could be like this the rest of her life from something that somebody gave her. We just want to educate. We know of 5 high schoolers this school year that have overdosed on this particular brand. And right now the ABC board is going around pulling all of these because it says cake, which is a violation. I want to stop. We do. I don't want y'all just stand by just a few minutes. I talked about these people and all. Um, I met Taylor Miller's mom when, after her daughter died, on the day that she died. That's my son, Matt. And he passed away the same day that Taylor Miller died from the same exact thing. And I can tell you this. Somebody said, how'd you get that cat? I said, hey, I don't know. That cat, I don't even know whose cat that is. That ain't his cat. But he had a dog that I get to raise, that I love. And that dog is a gift. But I can tell you this. When I go to schools and I tell them, you don't understand how important you are, young man. You lose a kid and everything changes in your life. The things that you looked forward to, they're distant memory. What our goal is right now is to prevent. We want to prevent one kid, one parent. I hope that you'll look at things differently and that you'll look a little bit at the pictures and you'll realize, these are real life, honest to God, people that had he was a better person than me. And he had a heart of gold that he would have done anything for anybody. And then when he got addicted, he changed like they do. Because an addict will steal, and some addicts kill. And we're not forgiving the bad behavior, believe me. And we still have to do what we can to stop them from committing crimes and all. But you have to look at things a little differently and think that that person right there that I know I'll see again. I know I will. And I'm thankful to God for that. But that person right there, he made a bad mistake. A tragic mistake. And what I'll tell kids tomorrow at Fairhope, if they'll still let me come, is this. Quit thinking that it's only you. Because my son, we had that talk, and he said, Dad, I didn't hurt anybody but myself. I didn't hurt anybody but myself. Ooh. As a parent, mothers would jump out in front of trains to give their life up to save their kids. And our prayers, like everybody's, is this. You got to love them through the hard times too. We have to prevent this. We have an opportunity to talk to kids tomorrow, to show them that they have worth and they have value. Because that's a mistake. I think a lot of kids right now, let's face it, the world is screwed up right now for all of us. And it's not just COVID. I mean, look at the America that we grew up in is not the America that we wanted for our kids right now. We love our kids. We love your kids, and I hope we show them that tomorrow. I do have one other thing that y'all saw the flyer, all the pictures outside. I hope every student stops long enough and looks at the pictures and all. I want to tell y'all it's been an honor and a privilege for me to be here tonight. And I mean that. And to Cecil and to all the people that made this possible, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I mean that when I say that, because every time I get to go to a place I never have, our goal is just that one. So God bless all of y'all. I want to introduce you. I hope you didn't mind if I, is it okay?
Yeah.
Tracy Carter.
So the slide that you just saw, the angel, that is my angel. That is Trey. He was 22 years old when he passed away in November of 2018. Trey's addiction started with a football injury in high school. Back then, I didn't know Oxycontins were a bad thing to give your kid. The doctors prescribed him Oxycontin, and he hid it very well from me for quite a few years. By the time that he had full-blown addiction, I sent him to rehab. He had overdosed once. And then I thought in February of 2017, we almost lost him. And then he went to recovery down in Boca Raton, and he was living a life of recovery. He was actually moving here with me and my husband, who are realtors here in Fairhope, and he was going to get his real estate license as well, and we were going to come sell up Fairhope. We all moved here from Memphis, and unfortunately, in 2018, Trey was gone. So all of my family's hopes and dreams were dashed. He had 2 younger siblings that it has wrecked our whole world. He has a dad that he was the only child to, and he's no longer here. We live each day trying to remember and honor him, but given the situation, if I knew things to do and to look for, I definitely would be talking to my kids. I would be doing my own investigating. There's so many articles that you can read, but as a parent raising a teenager these days, you got to educate yourself. Trey was not your typical addict. He was the life of the party. He made you laugh. And when I say the life of the party, I'm talking about adults getting together, having cookouts and stuff like that. Everybody wanted to be around Trey because he was funny. But within that funny became a person that I didn't really know anymore. And then at that point, it was just a little too late. But when I lost Trey, I had to do something to make a difference because I didn't want somebody else to go through what I have and what many other families have done. And that was to not let my son be forgotten. So I started on a mission to make a difference, to educate parents, educate the public, and educate kids, because it can be your kid, it can be your grandkid. So I started these banners as a tribute to Trey and a tribute to many other family members that I met after I lost him. And within, I guess, 2 months, I had filled up 3 banners. I carried them to Key West, and if y'all want to learn more, you can follow me on Facebook. But these are memorial banners that you see outside, and I have 31 of them that are full right now with 150 faces on each. So 2 of the banners would represent one day in America right now. That's a lot of people. Those banners don't even represent even a speck of sand, we'll call it. But these banners are for family members, loved ones, to remember and to educate and to hopefully change laws to make a difference. So when you pass by them, look at the faces, because they weren't the face of what most Americans like to call an addict. They were young kids. They were happy families, happy siblings, and they loved them and they mattered. And just don't ever put yourself in a situation where you would think that it couldn't be your child. Thank you.
Thank you. And one more. I want to acknowledge one more set is here with us tonight, and J.C. Werner and Jan Werner, who is here. J.C., come here. They're her brother and her son.
Hi, I'm J.C. Werner. I'm from Alberta, Alabama. I'm 19 years old. I'm the founder of the Benjamin Thomas Werner Foundation, and 6 months ago, my family changed forever. On September 11th, 2022, me and my family got the news that my brother had passed away of a fentanyl overdose. And since then, right after the funeral, I got to work because I didn't want nobody to go through what my family went through, because it is an unimaginable pain. We never thought it was going to be us. I never thought it was going to be Ben. Ben didn't think it was going to be himself. He thought he was invincible. So I started a foundation. I go into the schools in Baldwin County. I've been to many. I haven't been to Fairhope yet. Hopefully I'll go into that school. But I talk to these kids. I explain to them that it's not what their parents did back in the day. It's a whole different ball game. And being 19, I really connect with them, because when adults stand in front of them and talk to them and lecture them, sometimes it doesn't get through. But me as a 19-year-old, I graduated 2 years ago, standing in front of them saying, hey, this is not okay. We can't do this anymore because y'all are going to die. It really connects with them. And just a kid talking to them. I've been there. I've made the same mistakes they have. And they just feel connected. They feel safe to talk to me. I'm not going to sit there and judge them. And that's what and also I pay for teens and I pay for adults to go to rehab, because we want to save lives. We don't want anybody to go through what we've been through, like I've said. Like these parents sitting right here, we meet parents daily that go through what we've went through, and it's unimaginable. So that's why I go into these schools. I want to push these kids to say no. I had to say no. Those pills that were sitting up there was Molly. I've never said this. My mom has never heard me say this, but on prom night, I had one in my hand, and I had a decision to make, and I made the decision not to take it, and I thank God every day, because I'm standing up here, and those pills are on that thing, and there's kids dying because of that, and I could have died that night. But I'm here as a resource. I have contact cards. We're here locally, and we help kids. I just talk to them. I go into Orange Beach High School, and I sit one-on-one with kids, because they've never been told it's okay to talk about it. We have to make sure they know it's okay to talk about it. It's an uncomfortable subject. I know. I get shut down many times because it's an uncomfortable subject, but if we want to change, we have to speak up. Thank you.
Chief. Take your phone and you can take a picture of that, and you can order the Narcan, and I'll show you exactly. You're going to get some fentanyl test strips, and you're going to get Narcan. And this could save lives. So everybody, if you don't have a phone, if you do not have a phone and you cannot take a picture of that, if you will please see Sherry, our chief, or me afterward, and we will make sure we'll get you the information so you can order it for yourself or for your family, for your grandkids. My kit that I got several years ago was a little fancier because they put it in a neat bag. And I got to show y'all. It's the exact same thing, but it was never used. He died in a bed where this right here could have made all the difference in the world while I slept. And God willing, we'll be here tomorrow morning. Chief, I'm going to turn it over to her, but I want to tell y'all this is a magnificent turnout. So thank y'all for your turnout. Thank you for your time, and we appreciate you, and God bless all of y'all. Thank you, Chief.
I just want to say again, thank all of y'all here tonight for being here, and taking the time to come and listen to this. This is very important information. When you leave here, you need to talk about it. Share what you learned tonight. Share it with your loved ones. Share it with your friends. Share it with everybody. I think that, did you want to mention those strips? We're just going to do this? Okay, all right. Yeah, there are signs all over, and I believe we've even posted this on Facebook. So if you're not able to get it tonight, definitely look us up on Facebook. You can contact us at the police department. We'll get you all the information. Again, thank y'all. Lieutenant Reese, thank you for being here. Thank you, Tracy. JC, thank you. Thank you, JC. Thank you, everybody, for being here and telling your story.